Is it good? Welcome. Hello. Wow. Y'all are kind of quiet today, so you should be a lot more rowdy at church. That's the way I feel about that. Well, last week, what did I tell you I was going to talk about? Who am I and what am I doing? Right? We talked about who am I last week. There was one person here, and they responded, so that was good. Who am I and what am I doing? We're going to finish up this series of talks we've been in on world peace, right? Like we're all little models, like we're in some beauty contest, because all we want is world peace, right? Peace on earth, goodwill to men. And we've been talking. If you hadn't caught it, you can go back and catch them on YouTube. But I'm not going to recap the whole thing. But what I want you to get is, man, your world is your pond. You know, like the video. You may not be able to affect world peace in the Middle East. You may not be able to affect world peace in China or in Korea or even in New York and in Washington, D.C. It's impossible, right? But my world consists of me and you and everything that my ripple affects, right? Did y'all read the video or is it too fast? I need to show it again? All right. So you are a ripple, okay? Everybody say, I'm a ripple. I am a ripple. And it's good to be a ripple, right? Everybody excited about being a ripple? Yeah, it's good to be a ripple. What that means is, though, once your ripple starts, you can't pull it back. Now, that can be a good thing or that can be a bad thing, right? Do y'all agree? Like, we can start a good ripple, and every other person's ripple that it hits, that's a good thing, right? We can start a good ripple. Or we can start a bad ripple, and we're known as a tsunami or tidal wave or something. We go down in history as a bad ripple, right? Well, we don't want to go down as a bad ripple, so we need to know who we are, and who we are children of the Most High God, right? We are children of the King. We are inheritors. Is that a word? I don't know. We are inheritors of a kingship. And that kingship or that kingdom is the kingdom of our Father. You can understand that? This God's kingdom, our Father is God, and His kingdom is a kingdom that endures and lasts forever, and it overcomes all the other kingdoms of the world. And because it's my dad's, it's also mine. And because my Father has left me with responsibility in my pond, then I shouldn't just know who I am. I should know what I'm doing, right? It'd be a good thing to know who I am and what I'm doing. See, last week you may have come in here thinking you had no value whatsoever. But you're special. You're precious. You are valuable. You are a son or a daughter of a king. And that in itself makes you special, doesn't it? See, God didn't mess up when He made you. I know a lot of you guys have been told that. And a lot of you have told yourself that. God didn't mess up when He made you. He loves you. He loves us. Do you get that? I have a hard time playing that song, that He loves us, because those were the last words my friend Chris said to me. God loves us. He loves us. See, I think He saw something at that time that I wasn't quite aware of, because at that time I'm questioning that. I know Brenda sits on the front row every time we play that song, and I can't look up. And I just replay those moments in my head. He loves us. And He was so convinced that God loves us. He wanted His legacy. Out of all the things you could say, like if you could write down right now what your last words would be, what would they look like? And His legacy was, He loves us. God loves us. He loves us so much, He allows us to be ripples. And that's a very dangerous thing. Like, having the power of a king is awesome, right? Except for one thing. When you make a decision, there's ripples. And God's decision, as crazy as it sounds, is to give us authority to make ripples. That's scary, right? Because not me, but I know other people who are extremely mad and crazy. You know what I'm saying? So they make ripples, and they affect my ripples. And then it makes me want to make other ripples to affect their ripples. And then we start rippling each other out. And all of a sudden, man, it's a tsunami, right? It's not good for anybody. But if I realize who I am, if I realize that I am a child of the King, so I'm speaking on behalf of the King. I love the word Jesus used. He used steward. And a steward has no power or authority on his own. A steward only speaks on behalf of the captain, like on a ship, right? He only has the power given to him. He represents the captain. He speaks on behalf. And that's the way we are with the King. So it's very important to know who I am to have peace within me, right? But it's also important to ask, what am I doing? Once I know who I am, I've got to ask, what am I doing? Now, a lot of times, and I think it's easy in a world, an economy like we have, to start getting depressed and to kind of be deflated. Things can go bad, and it seems like things can go bad in cycles, and things can go from bad to worse, and you start to see negativity, and it starts to feed, and those are ripples, are they not? And they do affect you, don't they? They affect me. And when my ripples are negative and your ripples are negative, and all of a sudden, man, we got a big negative pond, and there's not peace on earth, not in my world, because I'm in it and you're in it and we're all negative on each other and affecting each other. But I don't think that's the way it's supposed to be. See, I think a lot of times we aren't asking the right questions. First of all, we don't know who we are. But when we discover that, we have to ask the second question to have peace on earth, to have peace in our lives. And that is, what am I doing? And I think for a lot of us, the answer to that question is nothing. Because when things are tough and when depression sets in, what am I doing becomes survival, right? How many of you guys have ever been through the survival state? Yeah. How many of you guys are in the survival state? Yeah. Can I be honest? I'm trying to survive right now. And there is no peace in the survival state. And I know that, so I talk to myself like, you're an idiot. Don't start with me, man. You know better than this. Who are you? And I ask myself that 1,000 times. Who are you? You're a child of the King. You're king of the world, man. I said that last week, right? How many of you guys told yourself that this week? Yeah, because we're sons and daughters of the King, right? We've been given responsibility in our worlds to be the King in our worlds. God has empowered us to have authority over the natural in our worlds. He loves us that much. He trusts us that much, and it's awesome. But sometimes we just get down and we forget who we are, and maybe we realize who we are and we don't ask the next question, what am I doing? And then we get depressed because we don't think we can do anything. How many of you guys ever felt overwhelmed about what you felt like you should be doing? Do you feel like what you should be doing is bigger than you could possibly be or ever do? And it's kind of overwhelming. So what's our tendency to do when we get overwhelmed? We just quit, right? It's best to just go in survival, protective, hunker down, guard your stuff, block everybody in and out of everything going on, right? That's what we do. And the thing is, it brings us to a subdued place. It's not the way we're supposed to live. Jesus came that we could have life. Do y'all know that? Have you ever heard that? Like he said, I came that you could have life and not just live, not just survive, but that you could have life to the abundance. The abundant life, the eternal, overflowing, perpetual, that's what all those words mean. That kind of life is the life that is more than what is here in the natural. It's more than what we can see, but it's a life that has to be experienced. God, he goes so far as to say, no eye has ever seen, no ear has heard, no mind can conceive the kind of life. That's the kind of life he's talking about for us. The kind you haven't ever seen a life like this. You haven't ever heard of life like this. Your mind can't conceive life like I'm giving. The life of the kingship. The life of destiny. The life with ripples that matter. Do you feel like your ripples matter? Or are you just plopping like a rock? Just plopping. I'm just rippling, man. They're just going. I don't know. Well, you don't have to live that way. We don't have to just exist. And here's the cool thing. You get to decide today what you're going to do with the rest of your life. Hey, how many of you are glad that from here back is over? Man, thank God. You know, I look at my kids and I think, oh my goodness, to be in high school again, to have to go through that again, to have to go through being in your 20s and you know, having no mind. And if you're in your 20s, just enjoy it, because you don't know enough to know you don't have a mind. And it's great. It's great. Then you turn 30 and you wake up and you go, oh my gosh, this is my life. I can't believe this. I'm completely shocked. This is not who I thought I was going to be. This is not how I thought it was going to turn out. I can't believe this is my life. And then all of a sudden you're 40. And you're bummed. My wife's been depressed for the last 2 years because she knows 40's coming. And I seriously doubt if we have a 40th birthday. I think we'll be 39s for a while, till we can cope. It's okay. It's okay. But something happens when you turn 40 and you realize, man, when you're 30, you said too much. Anybody over 40 that thinks they said too much when they were 30? Yeah, let's just rewind and erase all of that, right? Because at 30, you finally have a mind, so you get to speak your mind and you start to have intelligent thoughts and processes. That's why they don't let people be president in their 20s. Okay? Because you got to have a mind. Look, I was 20. I'm not dogging on you. I know I was there. I've seen video. They've got pictures. You can't destroy all the evidence of your 20s. It's impossible. But when you're 30, then you start thinking and you think you know everything. And then you're 40 and you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I used to think that. I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. Some point in there, you probably get married, probably have some kids, start messing up other people's lives. You know how it goes. Here's the thing, man, after all of that, wherever you're at today, whether you're 16 and you have no frontal lobe, which is just great. You know, if you're 16, 17, 18, here's the thing, and you may not know this, but at that age, your frontal lobe's not developed, and what your frontal lobe does is it makes you be able to see the consequences of your actions. You can actually see into the future more than just like the next hour. And so you start to see the consequences of your actions before you actually take those actions. So that's why parents, you have an important role. You need to teach your children the consequences of their actions because they can't see them. You ask your teenager, what were you thinking? I wasn't. I wasn't. It's crazy, isn't it? Here's something I thought about, and this didn't have anything to do with what I'm talking about, but have you ever thought about, we won't let you drink till you're 21, but we'll let you get married at 18. Okay. But in some churches will go, your age of accountability, the age where you're accountable to God for your eternity, that's like 12. Does that make sense to anybody? Like they can't think for the next hour, but they better make a decision for eternity. I don't know about that. The thing is, this loving God, He gives us a fresh start. Isn't that awesome? That someone would love you enough to say, you know what, I don't care what you did yesterday. As a matter of fact, I have no memory. I have the power to not remember. Don't you wish you did? I wish I had the power to not remember. And He says, I don't care what you did yesterday. I want you to walk with me today. Who are you and what are you doing? Who are you and what are you doing? And today we can leave here with a brand new life. We can leave here a totally different person. We can leave here and have ripples that have meaning and purpose. Today I want to look at one verse in the book of Proverbs, and it's one of my favorite verses. It's Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21. You don't have to turn. I'm going to read it to you word for word, okay? I won't even give it to you in the Todd version. It's going to read it to you. It says, many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. Now, in some other translations, it says there are many of the plans in a man's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. I really like the English Standard because it kind of expounds on that verse and says, we have a lot of plans that we come up with. Now I'm in my version. We have a lot of plans. We can dream up a lot of things. But it's what God does that lasts. I think a lot of times we're so overwhelmed when you ask the question, what am I doing? And then by asking the question, you feel like this need to do something. So like, who am I and what am I doing? I say who I am, what am I doing? And now all of a sudden there's pressure, right? But that verse goes kind of a different way. If you're feeling that pressure, then probably what you're going to do is you're going to make a plan. And if you're like my wife, you're going to make a plan to make a plan. Some of you guys are like that. Some of us are just going to shoot from the hip, right? Which works out, 50-50, toss a coin, whatever. The thing is, when we start feeling pressure, we're going to make a plan. Now, we've heard in church that we should make big impact in our world, right? We should have life that is bigger, that is greater, that is more, that is abundant, that is over anything that we can dream, hope, or imagine, right? So we make our plan and then we say, man, that sure is a small plan. I need a bigger plan. And so we make these big, huge plans. And when we make these big, huge plans, what happens? We get overwhelmed by our plans, right? And so we never do anything. So we find ourselves sitting around with our plans made. But see, you need to get the key to this, because the key to this whole thing is that these are my plans. This is what I've decided I need to be doing for God, of course. So I can be somebody for God. So I can make... Have you ever seen a big flat rock hit a pond? Those are some ripples, right? I mean, big. Okay, we want a big flat rock plan, right? Big ripples. But man, those plans are seemingly overwhelming. And it's a lot of pressure, isn't it? Because not only do I have to put up with life right here, right now, but now I got these plans stacked on me. Now I've got to become somebody, something, and do something. I come to church, I try to get peace, and all they're talking about is, who are you and what are you doing? And I'm not doing anything. Now I need to do something. Now I'm overwhelmed. Now I don't have any peace, and I had peace before I came. It's a cycle, isn't it? You just can't escape it. But here's the thing, and here's some things I need you to understand. I want you to, if you're a note taker, write it down. If you got it here like me, get it here. The thing is, more important than the notes and more important than the knowledge is the action. Okay, you need to do something. You need to do something with what we talk about today. Okay, here's the first thing that I've found in that, and this is from looking at someone who had it all together, okay? My wife. No, not really. Jesus had it all together, didn't he? Out of all the people that lived, I think he might have had it together more than most. Right? Yeah, so I look at Jesus, and you know what I found about Jesus? Is that his ministry, or you can say it another way, the will of God. You know your ministry is the will of God, right? It's the will of God done through you. That's what your ministry is. And do you know that you realize that if you're a son or daughter of the king, like, you have responsibility to carry out the will of the king, correct? Yes, yes. Okay, it's not just a title. You don't just get to get your business card to say king of the world and not do anything, right? This is not just a title. This is a job. This is what you have been commissioned to do. And it's a privilege and an honor. But in the same way, you still have a ministry, okay? No, don't be overwhelmed by the word. It's just the will of God done through you, okay? Here's what I noticed about Jesus, though. His ministry was carried out wherever he was. I know that's shocking, but I'm going to let it sink in for a second. It was carried out where he was. Now, I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but a lot of times that's the one thing we miss. My ministry has to do with where I'm at. Seems simple enough, right? But a lot of times our fantasy, our plans have to do with me being somewhere else. Because if you've been to church, like, you know you can't do anything big unless you go to Africa, right? How many of you guys ever heard Africa, like in church? All big things happen in Africa, right? So if I'm going to do ministry, I got to go to Africa. I don't know why. That's just the way it is. Now, here's the thing. I want you to understand that if there is something in you that is churning, that is burning, that's drawing you to some place, then that's God pulling you to a place. Okay, that's cool. But the point is, you still got to be there, right? Ministry only happens where I'm at. Okay? I need you to get that. It only happens where get this, I'll put it another way. My ministry depends on me being there. Right? Does that make sense? All right, that's what I found out from watching Jesus. His ministry took place where he was. I know it's shocking. You came all the way to church to hear something that brilliant. Here's the other thing I noticed about Jesus. Is he didn't plan his ministry. His ministry happened where he was at, okay, as he was living in that moment. For instance, the ministry of Jesus to, have you seen this title in your Bible? The Sinful Woman. Okay. The ministry of Jesus to the sinful woman. It happened because the sinful woman was being stoned where Jesus was at. So what did he do? He ministered to the sinful woman. I know it's shocking, right? Like, Jesus happened to be where he was at, and he actually did ministry as it came. You know what? One of the greatest miracles, phenomenal miracle, and this is the greatest thing. Jesus didn't do this once, but he had a curtain call. He fed 5,000 men, not counting women and children, 5,000 men at one time with just a small little meal. Awesome, right? Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, free meal like that, that's great. And then he curtain calls. He does the same thing with 4,000 at a different time. You know why? Well, he was there, and they were hungry. That was the ministry. He was there, and they were hungry. I know this is complicated, right? You get this? There were hungry people. There was Jesus. And so he made food for them. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. There was this other time that he wasn't there, and his friend Lazarus dies. Then he was there, and he says, "Come out," and Lazarus' family says, "Oh Lord, he stinketh. Surely you don't want him back." And he says, "Come out." And he ministers to the family, to the people there, because he wasn't there, and then he was there. And when he was there was an issue. The issue was his friend was dead. So he ministers, right? Over and over and over and over and over. I mean, think about it, okay? There's a storm brewing. Jesus is up on the mountain. He's praying. There's a storm brewing. His apostles are out in a boat. It's rocking. The wind's blowing. Now, these were fishermen who have fished this lake their whole lives. This had to be a humdinger of ripples, right? I mean, there is ripples on the water because these guys are freaking out like they're going to drown. And Jesus wasn't there. And then he was there, walking on water. Why did he walk on water? Because it was there. You knew it was coming. Because it was there. He walks on water. He calms the storm, and he ministers. Now, the Bible says that he's cruising by, like not paying it, like they're in the boat screaming for their lives, and he's like gonna just walk on by and just leave them, like ignore them. And they yell to him. So he comes and he ministers right there. He saw that his friends were in trouble, and he did something, right? Because he was there. Two things you have to get. You have to know who you are, and you have to know what you're doing. Who are you, and what are you doing? Well, the who are you is the am I there, and the what am I doing is am I seeing what's going on around me? See, if you can't recognize the need around you, you have no ministry. You have no ministry. Here's two things you have to do. If you want to know what to do, you have to have these two things. You have to be able to see the needs around you. Why is it that we always dream something big and miss all of the needs around us? We have to open our eyes to the needs around us, and I have to open my eyes to what I have to meet that need. Right? And I have to be there. I have to be there. If I'm there and I'm aware, I could go rap right now. I can feel a groove, you know. I'm not going to. I'm a guitarist, not a hip-hop star. Why do we miss our ministry? Why aren't we doing anything? Why do we feel like our ripples are useless? Because we're unaware of the needs around us, and we're unaware of what we have to meet those needs. Does that make sense? You want to be a miracle? Anybody ever want to do a miracle, perform a miracle? Wouldn't performing a miracle be the most awesome thing ever? I tell this all the time, but my dream is to walk on water. I think this is one of the coolest miracles you could perform. Now, it wouldn't be about Jesus. That's the only problem, because that would be all about me. I guarantee you. When I'm walking on water, it's going to be about me. But we all have this deal that we want to perform a miracle. We would love to perform a miracle, right? Yeah. What about that cop in New York who went to the store and bought the boots for the homeless guy who was freezing on the street? He saw a need. He was there. He took what he had and met that need. Is that not miraculous? Is that not unbelievably miraculous? Awesome. Did you hear about the cop? I think was it a Plano cop? Did I tell you about? I think it's a Plano cop. He pulled a guy over for no registration on his windshield of his car. Pulled the guy over for no registration. And the guy told him, he just started crying when he pulled him over. And I know what you're thinking, but this is a man, he's crying. You know, that's kind of weird. No, just kidding. Pulls him over, and the cop goes to the window and tells the guy, you don't have registration. He just starts crying. He says, we don't have any money. I've lost my job. My wife's lost her job. My car's out of registration. Her car's out of registration. We don't even have money to feed our kids. And this cop goes back to his car and writes him a ticket. I know what you're thinking. Good old cop, right? Goes and writes him a ticket and puts a $100 bill in the ticket and gives him the ticket. Because if you register your car, then they'll cancel the ticket. So he gave him the money to register his car, his wife's car, and gave him a ticket so they would do it. Right? He was a miracle. The guy calls the news. He tells everybody that somebody did this miraculous thing for him. He had nothing. He couldn't register his vehicles. And the guy, out of his own pocket, my dad was a cop. There's no fund for that. Out of his own pocket, does this. And they call the Plano Police Department. Plano Police Department says, he does that all the time. Says this guy just does that all the time. They weren't even shocked. Who's making ripples? See, the thing is, I think there's so many miracles sitting right in front of us, because what I am, who I am, and what I'm doing is going to be where I'm at. And if I will open my eyes and I will see what's going on around me, then I will know what to do. And if I see what's going on around me and I see the need, then all I have to do is say, God, what do I have that can meet this need? See, we all have something. Build-A-Bear. Anybody been there? Man, my little girl, Ella, oh my goodness, she loves Build-A-Bear. I don't know how many of those things you need, but one more will always do. This is cool, though. We got this when we went there. And there's these stories in every month, and they're kids. And if you watch Disney Channel, you've probably heard some of these same stories. There was this kid named Nicholas, and Nicholas started the Gotta Have Soul Foundation. I love it. Gotta Have Soul, which donates new footwear to children living in homeless shelters. You guys know children live in homeless shelters? You guys ever been to a homeless shelter? You know people who are homeless who have kids, their kids live there too. Well, he went and evidently saw these kids, and he saw a need. And so he collects packages and hand delivers shoes. Nicholas has given new footwear to 5,200 children and raised over $200,000 in footwear and monetary donations, and has mobilized over 1,000 volunteers, and he's 14 years old. You know why? Because he was there. He opened his eyes. He saw the need. He saw what would meet the need, and he says, how can I get what I have in the hands of the people who need it? Yosh, what a name. Yosh created this thing called sight learning. Yosh is a 15-year-old kid from Irvine, California, and he wears glasses. And he created Sight Learning, a nonprofit organization that supplies donated eyeglasses to students in need in the United States, Mexico, and Honduras. Sight Learning has collected more than $35,000 in donations, and they organize and run eye exam clinics. He saw that kids needed glasses, and he saw that everybody had old glasses, and he says, hey, what if we took these glasses that are out of date, out of prescription, and we gave it to people who need glasses? He saw a need, he was there, and he met it. Miraculous, right? Not to him. It's just what he was doing. Allison created Threads for Teens. Any of you guys ever heard of Threads for Teens? This is a pretty big deal. It's pretty popular. It's spread now even more than what this talks about, because I've heard of it even on Disney Channel and other things. Allison created Threads for Teens, a clothing boutique. What Allison realized, I saw this on Disney Channel, she realized that as she outgrew, she was, had all the nice, cool clothes and all the, the jeans with the bling or whatever, and she had all the cool stuff. And what she realized is she was outgrowing it, and they were selling it for pennies on the dollar at garage sales or whatever. And it was really just kind of a waste, after she had worn it. And so she started this thing called Threads for Teens, a clothing boutique that helps girls in need ages 13 to 17. That's a hard age for girls, especially when you have to wear clothes, old hand-me-downs, or clothes that aren't cool or in style. I mean, high school's brutal, right? Anybody remember? Yeah, it can be brutal, right? You show up wearing the wrong thing, man. It's, Girls can visit this store and shop for items they need at no cost. Well, what if people take advantage? Well, what if? What if? Allison raised over $100,000 and recruited 30 volunteers, and to date, more than 200 girls have come in for toe-to-head outfits, overhauls, whatever they call that thing. She lives in Santa Rosa, California. She's 16 years old. She had a heart. She looked around and saw kids who did not have, not because they didn't want to, they wanted to fit in. All kids want to fit in. She saw what she had and what they needed, and thought, I could just give away what I don't use anymore to help other people. She saw a need and she met it. Clara started, she's 10 years old, okay, 10 years old. She started Keys for Hope to raise money and awareness for her local homeless shelter. With the help of her friends, she decided to recycle old keys, each as sold as a necklace or a keychain or a zipper pull or an ornament. She made these things by hand. Keys for Hope sold approximately 2,000 keys and raised $12,000 for her local homeless shelter, because she went around and said, hey, you got any old keys? She saw a need and said, man, I could do something about it. December, where I was looking for. Rachel lives in Lighthouse Point, Florida, and she raised $167,400 to build 27 two-room homes and $132,000 to build a school complete with educational supplies in Leogana, Haiti. She raised funding for projects through bake sales, dances, speaking engagements, and she supports the nonprofit organization Food for the Poor and its quest to house the unsheltered. I mean, these are kids. And what did they do? They saw a need and met it. And I want to ask you, are you missing life? Are we missing something? Because our life and there's something big that we think we're got to be our big to do, our big who we are. All of these people didn't have a big dream. They didn't desire to become world famous. They saw a need and they met it. These kids, man, they decided, if I'm going to be sending out ripples anyway, why not make my ripples count? Who am I? What am I doing? What are we missing in life because we've got our plans, but it's only God's purpose that endures. It's only God's purpose that lasts. And you know what God's purpose is? Is that His life, His love, His forgiveness, His mercy, His ministry be poured out through me, through the ripples of my life to the other people in my pond. That's what world peace is about. You can do it. I can do it. We can leave here different. We can leave here today with our eyes open, and instead of going, oh, I'm overwhelmed, I'm dreaming, oh, my dream's so big, it's got me stressed out, there's no way I can carry out my life and my dream. All of a sudden I can start to realize, wow, that person needs this. And God will hit you with what you need. I mean, if your eyes are open, your heart's going to be ripped out by something in our world today. It will be ripped out. And the minute it gets ripped out, you're going to have to go, what do I have? What do I have to meet that need? Maybe you don't have money. Maybe you don't have the thing you need. Maybe you got one of these. Maybe bake sales. Well, I don't really want to inconvenience myself that much. You know, those small little acts that we do, those small little miracles, they build. This kid probably took these shoes to the homeless shelter, and he probably realized that this makes more impact in my life than all the other cool stuff I've done put together. And so then he went back and got 2 pair and 3 pair and 4 pair, and then he asked his buddies, hey, let's go around the neighborhood and gather up some shoes. Everybody's got old shoes. How many have old shoes in your closet? I don't have, but in my closet, there are plenty of shoes. You know what I'm talking about. They're smaller size than mine slightly. We all got stuff like that laying around. Well, like, how do I get what I have in the hands of who needs it? See, that's the thing. The kingdom of heaven is here. Everything this world needs has been provided. We have a distribution issue. You guys realize that? God needs us to get what He's provided in the hands of those who need it. If I had to draw a political line, I would say I would fall in hands of Republican, because I don't believe that's the government's job. I believe that's the kingdom job, is to take what we have and put it in the hands of people who need it. Because if you get the government involved, they're going to take a portion out of it, and it becomes less. We can do more than the government can do. Do you understand that? But because the church will not do what we're supposed to do, the government's having to. Let's put the government out of business. Do you guys realize that our food banks are empty? Our economy's terrible. We've gone through the holiday season and our local food banks are empty. The Dallas food banks are empty. There are hungry people who don't have money for food. What can you do about it? How many of you guys got green beans on the shelf that got dust on it? I don't eat green food. It is a prejudice thing. Look, if you're hungry, you'll eat green beans though, right? Here's the thing. They sell those things because there are people who like them. So, just weird people. But could you, you see this, and I'm just random. Maybe you see that need, that there's hungry people. Maybe there's an organization that has the heart for that. They're already doing it. You don't have to go start your own food pantry. We got those. They just need help. Maybe that's your heart. Maybe you say, hey, I could gather up food. Well, we do that last Christmas. Well, how would you like to just eat at Christmas? I mean, honestly, like people eat year-round, don't they? People wear shoes year-round, but we only gather up shoes at Christmas. We've got to incorporate this in our life. This is a new year. It's a good time to start a new life. It's a good time to open our eyes and see that the world around us is hurting. The world around us has needs. And I'm not talking about there in Haiti or Africa. Yes, there's needs in Africa. I'm not saying there's not. But maybe the person standing in front of me has a need that I have the resources to meet right here, right now. And because it's not huge, and because I don't get my name plastered everywhere because it's in Africa, they're not important. Do you know Jesus just healed who he came in contact with? He didn't go out like, all right, guys, today we're going out hunting a blind man. Like, he just happened to be there. He saw a need, he met the need. If we will start to live our lives in a way that when we see a need, we look around us and see, what do I have that can meet that need? We will be different people this time next year. This world will be different this time next year. Our community will be different this time next year. Your life will go from stalled out, broken down, hunkered down, defending and maintaining to exploding if you will just look around you and see what needs there are and how to meet them. Stand up with me. I want to pray for you.